How's it going, everyone? As you can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking about how good a MAACO paint job actually is, as well as talking about their customer service experience, because to put it lightly, I didn't really have a great experience with them. So I'm going to be talking about that as well. Oh, it's typical MAACO paint job. It just looks, it's a 10-footer, meaning it looks great from this distance. When you get up close, it doesn't look that good. And I have to say, to an extent, they're right. But again, this is MAACO. This is a cheap paint job. This is not a $4,000, $3,000 paint job that you're paying for. So I guess right off the bat, I'll just go ahead and say, yes, overall, I am satisfied with this paint job, given how much I paid. Now, in my full video where I kind of take this car to the shop and then I go pick it up and I put it back together, I talk more in depth about what paint job I got, what level of paint I got, which was like their urethane and integrated clear coat, which was like their 4th out of 6 options in terms of price. So I didn't just get the cheap $600 option. So this paint should last longer. It should be better quality paint. So with that being said, I also want to talk about, before I start showing the paint up close a little bit more, I also want to talk about body repair. Because I did have them do some body repair to the car. I had a couple of dings right here, probably about like there and there, just some door dings. Those look 100% fine. And the one that I was really concerned about, I had a big dent down here on the bottom of this door. I'll put a picture up on the screen, and they completely fixed that. It looks like it was never even there, so I am extremely pleased with what they did with this dent. There were a couple of other small dings as well I had them clean up, but besides that, I mean, it really looks good body-wise. Now, in terms of the actual paint itself, this color is called Midnight Blue. As you can see, it's a very, very dark blue. When you get up close to it, you can see it has a purple to it. It even has like a rainbow like flake to it. It's going to be hard for the camera to focus at such a close distance, but it is a freaking gorgeous color, and I'm really happy with this. Now you can see it's not clear and reflective as glass as you're looking at me right here, so you can see there is a bit of orange peel. So that's typical, but there are, another thing I want to mention is on the project sub, I did notice there were a couple spots where, like, especially up here where they masked a little bit over the metal that they're supposed to paint, but on my car, I have not found a single spot where they masked over or a single spot that they missed. So they did a very good job masking off this car as well, and I'm very pleased with that. So the paint from a lot closer, you can see it just looks, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's, again, you can see the orange peel on there. It's not reflective like a mirror. But once the paint cures in 3 weeks, I'm going to be putting some ceramic coat wipes on here, a product I've never tried before. So I'm going to see how that works. But I mean, I'm just really, really in love with this color in the sun. It looks so good. I guess I could also mention price. I mentioned I got that urethane and integrated clear coat paint level, I guess we can call it. That was about, I think, $1,000, and then on top of my body repair and everything, I paid about $1,439 for this paint job. So all things considered, I think that's pretty good. Now with the paint itself and with the price and everything, I'm satisfied. I'm 100% satisfied with it, and you can see it from closer up. This hood was a different color because mine had dents in it, so if you remember correctly, this hood was a different color. It's got a nice layer of dust on it, unfortunately. But it was repainted, so was this bumper. So you can see, we'll have to see over time, of course, how this paint holds up. But for now, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. So I guess maybe a year from now, if you're watching this video a year from now, there might be another one if, you know, the paint starts to go to shit. But I believe this also came with a 4-year warranty on it. I'm not exactly sure what that warranty entails, but I did bring my estimate with me right here. Yeah, so urethane and integrated clear, 4-year prorated warranty. So I might have to contact them about that and what that exactly means, but 4-year warranty, like, I'll take that. That's pretty solid. But again, you can see the cost right there, $999.95, and they also charge you just some other stuff for their sanding and their sealer and all that other garbage. So without trying to keep this video too long, I think that pretty much wraps up the quality of the paint job. So I hope that answered anyone's questions. If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them down below. But again, from 10 feet, it looks absolutely fantastic. And even up close in a lot of spots, it still looks pretty good. And I think once it gets the ceramic coat on it, these ceramic coat wipes, or even just a layer of wax, it'll make it even better, but I have to wait for the paint to cure for that. So let's hop inside here. I'm gonna put the camera up here on the dash and tell you guys a little story about their customer service. So their customer service, as I kind of alluded to in my last video, it was not good at all. I actually have quite a long list in my phone just of everything that kind of happened over the weeks. I also had a really shitty experience with customer service from Discount Tire right before that. So I was already kind of a little bit on edge, and the MAACO thing just took it to a whole nother level. But needless to say, the discount situation ended up getting solved after a month, so all good with that now. But I guess let's go ahead and get into this. So, starting first off, the most frustrating thing that they did, and I guess this goes to their paint quality and just their laziness, but the most frustrating thing that they did is we got the project sub back a week before we got this car back, and the project sub of course has the Turbo X wheels on it, which are my wheels. We start to put the car back together and we noticed there is red paint on the Turbo X wheels. There's red paint all over the Turbo X wheels. Now, it's not like bright red, super like red like the car paint, but you can tell there was clear overspray on the wheels. So, needless to say, told MAACO about it, and of course the guy I dealt with the whole time had like the most passive voice ever. He's like, well, if it appears that there is some overspray on the wheels, then you can bring them in and we can see if there's something we can do about it. It's frustrating because, you know, you wouldn't think that there'd be overspray on wheels. I also checked this car as soon as I got it back before I even took it off the lot to make sure there's no overspray on these wheels. Thankfully there's not. But in my opinion, how do you get overspray on wheels? Like, it just seems like something that's not that hard to do. I would think they just put trash bags over the wheels and then you're good. But I don't know. So that's by far the most infuriating and long-lasting thing with all of this. Next up, they also partially messed up her taillight. If you guys remember, we did a taillight mod, kind of like an ice block mod with her taillights. And I guess when they pulled off the masking tape, because it's so adhesive, it ripped off some of that black paint with it. You know, accidents happen, it's fine. The thing is though, they didn't even tell us. Both of these things we discovered ourselves. And that's kind of the theme with all of this. They didn't tell me or her with either of our cars. They didn't tell us about anything. All these things we just kind of stumbled upon and figured out ourselves over time. So we fixed that when we put the car back together. You saw that if you watched that video. But after 3 weeks, we were supposed to go pick up both cars. They didn't call us or anything. There was no communication really throughout the process. So I had to call them again, and they're like, oh yeah, the car's done, whatever, you can come pick them both up. So okay, we go down. They didn't paint the front lip on my car, even though I asked them to, for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't paint my front lip. They painted the front lip on her car, but they didn't paint it on mine. I don't know why. So needless to say, because of that alone, I had to leave the car there, and then she got to take hers home, and I had to come back a week from then, which was the next Saturday. So now comes the more fun stuff. I'm gonna try and keep this quick, but when I went up to pick up the car the first time, they told me that the battery was dead. Now this battery in this car was a year old. So in other words, it's a perfectly functioning battery. So I went up there, they couldn't get the car to start. They said they hooked up jumper packs to it and all this other stuff, and they still couldn't get it to start. So I went up there, I looked at it, the key was stuck in the ignition. I had to forcefully put it back into park with the emergency switch under the trim here, and then I could take the key out. But just extremely infuriating. Like, you know, if the battery died, no, I guess I take that back. It's not infuriating that the battery died, like whatever. It can happen. The thing is, And again, the same guy I dealt with, he's like, well, these are things that tend to happen when we work on cars, you know, batteries can go bad or starters can go bad. You know, that was another thing they tried to put on it. They're like, oh, well, the mechanic shop next door thinks it could be the starter. The starters don't go bad on these cars just like that. I've never seen anyone in a Facebook group in the history of being on those Facebook groups for like 4 years say that their starter is bad. Now, I could be exaggerating. I'm sure there's people in the past that have had to replace a starter, but it doesn't just work one day and then not work the next day when you go to start the car. It's clearly the battery. And it's clearly the battery because you either left the key in the ignition or you left the doors open. And the funny thing is, he even said, yeah, well, when we work on cars and we're masking them off, sometimes we have the doors open for an extended period of time. So clearly that killed the battery. You pretty much just admitted to killing the battery. And again, that's not what I'm mad about. What I'm mad about is their lack of accountability. They didn't even care that they killed the battery. They said these things happen and it's your responsibility to fix it, pretty much. So that was very frustrating. Thankfully, the guys at Sam's Club that I talked to, I happened to not have my receipt. Somehow I lost it for this car. I had it for the Turbo X, but he was cool. He just gave me a new battery for free and I got a 3-year warranty on it. So huge shout out to the guy at Sam's Club. Really chill guy. Not like he's watching this video or anything. But that was probably the next most frustrating thing, is dealing with all that. And because they tried to jump the car so many times, and the battery was so dead that I got it from MAACO, I drove it home 45 minutes, and as soon as I parked it and turned it off, I tried to start it again, it wouldn't start. Came out the next morning to go take this car to get a new battery, or just to move it out of the driveway so I could get the Turbo X out. And it gave me the steering lock message. It was giving me a code for the SIM. So then I think, oh great, they somehow like overloaded my SIM and somehow messed up my ISM or something. Thankfully, my buddy Anthony helped me out with that, and we just were able to clear the codes and then it worked fine. But just another thing that I shouldn't have even had to deal with, you know, like if they would have been on top of that stuff, first off, I wouldn't have even had to get a new battery. And second off, you know, they would have taken care of the new battery for me. So that was also a very frustrating experience, because it also almost potentially caused more problems to my car, like potentially needing a new SIM or something. And now the most remaining frustrating thing is the roof trim. You might have noticed it when I was showing the outside of the car earlier, but the long strips of trim that run between the tops of the doors and the roof, they're probably about 4 or 5 feet long. They're both broken. So they removed them, and for whatever reason they didn't remove them on the project sub, or they removed them and they didn't break them when they removed them, so they put them back on. But they removed them, and they didn't put them back on. I was wondering why they didn't put them back on, and then of course last Saturday when I go to put the car back together and I'm filming that video, I realized, oh look, all the clips that hold these in are completely destroyed, and therefore it won't go in. So I called MAACO, of course got forwarded to their call center. Their call center said they'd send a message, waited a whole day, didn't get a call back for whatever reason, so I called, probably because they're like, we're done dealing with this idiot at this point, and they didn't just want to call me back. So I called them again the next day, got the same passive thing. Well, if it appears that we broke some of the trim, I mean, there's certainly, you can bring the car down and we can try to find a way to fix it. I'm like, look, at this point I need you guys to just buy me new trim, because I shouldn't have to jerry-rig my trim to try to get it to fit on my car. It should come as I brought it to you. You should be returning it in the same condition, quite frankly better condition considering how much work you're doing to it, than I got it in. So if you break something, again, you should be accountable for it. Pretty much what he alluded to is they're just going to use adhesive to stick it on there, which in my thought means that's never going to be able to be removed again after that. So initially I was like, fine, I'll go up there, I'll make them do it. But it's a 45-minute drive one way. If it was a 5-minute drive, you know, I'd go do it just to make them do the work for messing up. But I don't think I really want to spend all that time, nor do I really have that time to drive up there, wait 2 hours for them to fix it, and then come back down here. So I'll probably just find a way to fix that myself, probably with adhesive, but I'll do it in a way that, you know, won't be sketchy. So if someone also is probably going to say, oh, just buy new ones. I checked on eSaw parts, they're like $120 each, so I'm not really going to spend that kind of money on that. So I think that pretty much wraps up all of my complaints. one last thing. I got the car back, and about 2 days ago I noticed I have like an OBD2 scanner and a couple of receipts sitting down here in the passenger footwell that need to be cleaned up that I just kind of left in there, and I figured I'd deal with when I got the car back. But I also noticed there was a bag of McDonald's, not McDonald's food, but a bag of McDonald's trash with a receipt sitting in there for an Egg McMuffin. So clearly one morning at 7:58 a.m. someone bought McDonald's and they ate it while they were working on my car. Cool, whatever. But then they just left it in the car. So I don't know. But again, I know the comments are going to be filled with, oh, it's MAACO, this is what you get, you know. And quite frankly, to an extent, I can understand that. But at the same time, even the most basic level of customer service would have been appreciated. The most basic level of, okay, yeah, we broke this, we know we broke this. But I mean, because they know that they caused the battery to go bad, they know that they broke that trim. You should be accountable to fix it and fix it properly, meaning get me new trim. Don't try and stick it on in a way that might not even work. I mean, it could fly off at 80 miles an hour on the freeway and impale through a windshield, you know. In my opinion, their customer service was very poor, and their accountability was even worse. So the paint, again, to wrap up this long rant, I figured I'd just knock this all out in one video. The paint, again, good. You know, I'm happy with the paint job. I'm very happy with the body work that they did. And I think once it gets some ceramic coat wipes on it, or even just a layer of wax, it'll look even better. So I'm really excited to see how that looks. But this car looks fantastic now. I'm very happy with it. I'm getting tons of compliments on it. So thank you all who have, you know, reached out and said something. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you feel bad for me, this wasn't meant to be a pity party, but if you feel bad for me, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you all next time.